Good morning, everyone. This is the Essential Credentials Podcast, episode 43, and the end of the MLB season is here. It's happened. The World Series is over. Some of you might like that. Some of you might not, including this guy. But I couldn't think of two better people to talk about that with than my buddies Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Waking up.
Yes.
Slowly.
And we got an extra hour of sleep today, man. It was awesome. I'm pretty stoked about that. And then, of course, my buddy Brent, who helps support my sadness for Tyler Glasnow not doing well. He keeps my spirits up, so thank you for that. How you doing, Brent?
You bet. I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to have you. Did you remember to get your clocks set back, other than the fact that our phones do it for us?
Yeah, actually, for the first time, I didn't do it before I went to bed, just because I knew there was no reason to, because my phone would tell me. So, yeah.
There you go.
Still got up. Didn't take advantage of it, though.
I'm usually paranoid about it. I'm always afraid that Skynet is not going to do it just to screw me. But I didn't have to work today, so it didn't really matter. So,
right.
Yeah, that worked out good that we got to chat today before the Seahawks played too. I'm excited to see if they can bounce back, even though their defense could probably get scored on by a high school team right now. But I mean, the MLB season is done, and when it started, the three of us really chatted a lot about, I don't think this is going to finish. Like, we were really concerned, especially because we just didn't know about how the coronavirus, COVID-19 was really going to change over time. And, MLB was able to, they had a few scares. We were in that right at the beginning, what was it, second week? A couple of teams tested positive, and all these games got canceled, postponed, and we're like, all right, here it comes, it's over, fellas. But Manfred was very adamant about, all right, we're going to have to clamp down on some of these things and make sure they don't. And so that happened, and then you had the what was it? Not Shane Bieber, but the other pitcher on Cleveland, Zach Plesac. We had that whole ordeal where he broke protocol and went and hung out with some friends and basically was done until the end of the year. So they made some examples of some players, and then things kind of stayed on track, and we had a couple of cases here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty good. I'm going to go to you first, Ryan. I mean, were you surprised that the season ended up going all the way through?
I am. I was an absolute doomsayer. When they first had their first few cases pop up and the games got canceled, I didn't feel like MLB was doing what the NBA was doing. I didn't think they had adopted enough. And honestly, I just thought it was going to spiral out of control. I mean, you got all those guys in close proximity. I don't know if they're showering, they're all in the same showers. I imagine they didn't have something like that. They're in the same locker room. Yeah. Get all these guys that can't really keep their distance and they can't really put masks on. So I figured, like, once you get one guy in there, it was going to be patient zero. It's going to be a little outbreak monkey and game over.
Yeah, that was certainly interesting that when those cases would pop up. The first one was the Marlins, which, by the way, they made the playoffs, which was amazing. I think that in itself should be mentioned. That was probably the biggest surprise. Yeah.
They didn't even notice there were no fans in the stadium.
Right. It was 2019 for them. Yeah.
Yeah. No joke. I mean, but you had them to start, and they had like 7 or 8 cases, boom, just like right off the get-go. But thankfully, it didn't spread too much further than that. And after, I think there was one more little outbreak with a team, and I can't remember who it was. Cardinals, thank you. Yeah. When Manfred was like, look, you guys, we got to implement some new regulations, and if you don't follow these, you're done. And I think since then, I mean, what it looked like, for the most part, if there was even one case, they would shut a team down for 3 days. Boom, done. And they would test. And after the 3 days were up, or like over a weekend, they would let them play again. But Brent, I mean, how do you feel like the season, are you happy with how the season turned out overall?
I mean, all things considered, yeah. I mean, I was like Ryan. I went into it being, super pessimistic, and given everything going on in the year, it's like it's so easy to give into hyperbole. It's like one guy gets it, there goes the season. But I mean, it is where we're at right now.
Right.
Looking back on it, it went pretty dang well. I mean, there was a lot of, nuances you can get into about how extra innings were handled, or, playing the 7-inning doubleheaders, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you know what? We got baseball. We got some baseball. So I'm not going to complain too much because we were all desperate. What's up, Ken? We were all desperate for baseball. So in any semblance or any form that we got it,
Yeah.
I'm going to look back on it and say happy. We can get in the weeds about what counts, what doesn't count, and should they have done it differently. But hey, we got some stuff, so I'm happy with it.
You definitely have to take a glass half full approach because I'm with Ryan. Like the whole 7 inning double headers and like the guy on second base to start extra innings. I mean, it really didn't matter too much, but I think the traditionalist in me, other than the DH in the National League, I was a big fan of that.
Right.
You know, I was at least we got some baseball, right, Ryan? I mean, at least we were able to watch some baseball and have something to talk about, and we had a playoff series, you know, a whole playoffs, which was in a bubble, which was amazing. Nice job, MLB, doing that.
I thought that was the
yeah.
greatest thing they did, and I would love to see that continue on.
Yeah.
The fact that we didn't have to have all the travel days and you got multiple games every day, as a fan, that was amazing. Like, I love that.
That was, and the strategy of it was interesting too, though. What's up, Dave? Good to see you, man. Because, like, especially my whole mentality of baseball has changed. I've never approached baseball thinking about pitchers to the sense that, like, I'm breaking down when they might start and how many pitches and all this. When I was a Mariners fan, you know, before now, when I was just a fan of the team in general, I was like, I really don't care who pitches. I'm excited to watch hitting. But now I'm like, well, because they're playing back to back. How's that going to affect the pitchers? You know, your strategy. You had so many teams running we call bullpen pitching games. That never happened before. It was always just like you knew you had Kershaw and then this guy and then this guy and then the three of them, because all the days off, they would just run it back. You know, most teams would always have a 3-man rotation, and now you're running. It's just like it was just different. You know, it was interesting to see the coaches on strategy, and we can hate on certain coaches for their strategic calls, but I think it made it really interesting and different, and that's for me what made it so exciting is you just didn't know what to expect, you know. And there were some pretty cool things. The Marlins getting to the playoffs and the Rays getting to the World Series. I don't think people expected them to knock off the teams they knocked off, and you know, the Braves almost made it too. So it was a fun one, man. A lot of unexpected things. Let's talk about our Mariners though for a little bit. I mean, were you guys happy with, you know, Brent, were you happy with the Mariners season this year, or do you feel like we were so close to the playoffs again, it would have been nice to, you know, see that with the expanded playoff format that they did?
Yeah, you know, there's two sides to it. It's like, part of me is like, if there was ever a year we could sneak into the playoffs, this would be it. Because of the expanded playoffs, even if we tripped backwards accidentally, we could maybe have made it. But knowing the trajectory that they're on right now with the rebuild and process, I think this year was very beneficial for them in that sense. I mean, we can talk about some guys that we wanted to see make the team that maybe were held back another year, like Jared Kalenic, maybe Julio Rodriguez, a couple other pitchers, Logan Gilbert.
Yep.
Because of the shortened season, they probably would have got the call up in September, and that would have been cool to see him like Kyle Lewis did last year.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, this kind of helps us be more successful going into 2021. And for that sense, the 30,000 foot view of it, I think it was good for us. The fan in me really wishes we could have made the playoffs.
Right. No, for sure.
You know?
For sure. Ryan, what do you think, though? I mean, Brent definitely brought up a good point. I think they did pretty good considering where we're at, but what do you think?
I definitely would echo a lot of those same sentiments. I think there's part of you want to trust the process, but another part of you wants to have immediate results. You want that satisfaction. And seeing where the Mariners are headed and seeing where their minor league system is at, I think they showed a good deal of restraint, and I am very happy for that. They didn't do anything stupid just to appease the negative fans that are like, oh my God, Mariners are out of it again. Like, they're like, no, this is our plan. This is our process. We're going to continue on this path. And I loved the fact that even when they got close at, what was it, 5 games under 500, whatever we were at the time, they didn't go out and do anything stupid. They didn't try and blow it up.
Right.
Like, let's go for it now. Let's go. Screw Kyle Lewis. Screw Kelenic. Just we'll go get somebody.
Yeah, right.
And I think also to add to that, I think the fact that it was a surprise to us at the time, the trade they made with Austin Nola to the Padres, I didn't know what we would do. The trade deadline was really weird this year, right? I mean, it was like 3 days or something. So to get who we got for him, just to kind of bolster our strong foundation for the future, I think was a good idea.
I'm dying here, guys.
We got a host down. All right.
You just mentioned Austin Nola, and then
Yeah,
I realized you forgot to mention trading Dan Vogelback, which just brings a tear to my eye.
We got $8 for him.
Oh man, so sad he's gone.
And pennies.
But you were so excited. I remember Brent being over the moon about the return we got from the Padres. You were stoked, and then it got me. Like, I knew about Ty France because Eric Anthony, he had raved about this guy watching him in the minor leagues, so I knew we were getting a good player there. But also the other players we got, I felt like that was a really, really smart move. And then yes, trading Dan Vogelback to fill our soda machines, that was also really nice to be able to do that. Ryan, what about you? I mean, are you happy with where we're headed right now? Do you feel even better after the trade deadline? Like, hey, next year or even the year after, we might be able to do something.
Absolutely, they have. I mean, Austin Nola, he's a guy that he would have been at home on either one of those World Series teams. A nice, solid role player coming off the bench, but he has no place on a team like the Mariners. He's not young. He doesn't have a position. Mm-hmm. So if you can get anybody with upside, absolutely.
Right.
But
his name makes me think of Luke French every time I hear it, so it's got that weird mental disconnect.
Luke French. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we got Taylor Trammell, right?
That's it, Taylor Trammell.
That's the name. Yeah. That he was on the Reds, and then he came over to the Padres. Oh, I can't remember. I should know off the top of my head why he went to the Padres. Anyways, he was in the 2017 or 2018 All-Star game, and they mic'd him up. Dude, I fell in love with that guy. Just his energy and just he's a great guy. So he'll be a good addition. I could see him maybe making the team next year.
Well, that's going to be interesting because I don't think Julio makes the team yet, although I do want to mention he was playing post-injury in some fall ball, and he was killing it, man. Like, Julio,
nothing happened.
2022 will be his year, I'm just like envisioning Jared will have a really solid chance next year. Trammell will have a solid chance. So, a Kelnick, because Trammell is outfielder, isn't he? Is Taylor an outfielder? Okay. So Kyle, and Jared in the outfield at some point next year would be really cool to see. And then you got all our young pitchers and let's not forget Marco Gonzalez. Like, that dude is still pitching really, really well for his skill set. He's got that like Greg Maddux doesn't pitch really hard, but his location is really, really good. And he always goes 6 to 7 to 8 innings every start. Like, I fell in love with that guy over the season because I almost dropped him on my fantasy team, and then I saw okay, he is really effective, and I know I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. I do want to see Kyle Seager's contract go to a different team, but as Ryan pointed out, that contract isn't being taken up by anybody, right? I mean,
He's not blocking a path. Our entire payroll is probably like $80 million. I don't know the number. I'm sure we're paying people that aren't on our roster anymore, but we're not paying anybody that's on the roster. So,
yeah, I think Kyle Seager's contract next year is almost a fourth of our entire salary is wrapped up in him.
It'd be nice if we could, and I like Kyle. Don't get me wrong; he's one of the best defensive third basemen out there. He didn't have a terrible season, but it's time to move on. Put Ty at third. Right. It'd be nice if they could trade him and pay off a third of his salary, just eat the loss, but be able to get rid of the rest of the contract and keep going from there, because he's really the only, now that Felix is gone, I mean, he's really the only piece left over from those us trying to win times. And I don't know about you guys, but I would support eating some of the salary just to get him to a different team and even get some draft picks or something for him so we can really just go full bore into the rebuilding side of me. He's a great veteran presence. That's what Ryan, you mentioned in our chat. He would be great. He's going to be great for Ty France and bringing him up and other guys. But I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. I would like to see us move on, But yeah. Do you think they'll do anything, Ryan? Do you think they're going to do anything with the offseason? What do you see them doing? Just kind of holding pat or what?
If we do, I think you're going to see some one-year contracts, maybe middle relievers, a couple stopgap players. Unless the only the only reason I think they would consider it is if they went the Padres route, where the Padres, instead of waiting for their young kids to get there, they went out and went for Machado a year or two before they got there. They signed him to the 10-year deal, or did he get 8? I think he got 10.
It was really long.
I think it was 8. I think it was 8. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. It was huge.
Yeah, like essentially they just skipped that step and said, let's bring in the big free agent so that when our kids develop, he's already here.
Yeah.
So maybe that's...
Who would it be in your mind? Like, pick somebody.
I don't necessarily know if there's anybody like that out there. I mean, Trevor Bauer is probably going to be the big name, but he's already 30. He doesn't fit into the Mariners' plans, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any big positional players? I haven't really checked that much.
That are free. I mean, the number one free agent for a position player will probably be George Springer. But I'm not saying he fits the narrative either. I'm just trying to think.
No, but I think he's like on that borderline. He's right where that Machado deal is, because he's that age. He's only, 27, 26? Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's hard to get over the fact that he played on that team. But other than that, he's a tremendous talent. I mean,
he hustles. Like he's a guy that, even though I hated him, he's kind of like Mike Trout. I hate Mike Trout, but I love watching Mike Trout. And prior to the cheating, when you kind of everybody collectively said, we don't like the Astros anymore. Yeah. He was fun to watch. Like him and Altuve were both fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, what about this? Yeah, and of course, can't forget about Lindor, which, let's be completely honest, I would be completely okay with that. Yeah, we got JP, but JP can slide over to second, right? And D is, D needs to, even though he's my grandpa's favorite player, I'm ready for him to not be on the team anymore. He can't hit anymore. But I could see us, I don't know, maybe if we'd have to get rid of Kyle Seager's contract to go after Lindor. That's the only way that would work.
Yeah. I mean, one of the crazy off-season rumors with, with the Mariners, they have some capital, is like they could go after like a Lindor or like a Javi Baez at second, and for a trade. But the thing of it is, too, is like, the off-season, and maybe this is for a discussion for later, but I think there's going to be a lot of one-year contracts signed, because I think you're going to have a lot of owners that are going to come to the table and say, hey, we didn't make any money in 2020. So there may be kind of a larger resistance to signing people to a longer, more kind of robust kind of contract. Mm-hmm. So we may be seeing guys that normally would get that 4 or 5 year contract only get a 1 year contract. Right. And that might play into our, if we're playing for it now.
Right.
JT, that's right. JT Realmuto is a free agent too. That's our top catcher. Yeah. We have Kyle Raleigh coming up, I think, for the Mariners. I think he's our catcher of the future. I wouldn't be surprised now that we really don't have anybody, unless Murphy comes back, 100% from his year injury.
He was decent. I don't have a problem with him. I think as far as a catcher goes, you're never going to have one catcher start all the time. So you got to have 2 solid catchers for sure. So I would rather see us. Yeah, I would rather see us go for a guy like Lindor or Springer over a really expensive catcher. I mean, I feel like Tom Murphy did a fine job, and if you can get somebody up that can hit 240 to 250 and call a really good game, then you don't need to spend big money on the catching position.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
That's a dangerous position to give money to. I mean, Joe Mauer, obviously, Gerald Dempsey, Posey the third.
Right.
You give a even slightly aging catcher big money, big years. You're just begging for that to blow up in your face just due to the wear and tear on them.
Right.
Well, this is a little pessimistic, Ken, I will say, and you're right, but let's just be honest.
Right.
After the money that they've lost this year, there is no way they are not going to let there be games by 2022, because, God willing, by 2022, all the fans will be coming back into the stadiums. They would be absolutely crazy to not have a full season by then, because all the money they would miss out, it can't happen. It cannot happen.
Right.
That would be the biggest travesty since the 94 strike. So, yeah, it can't happen.
That was sad. I was just going to bring up, before we move on, if you want to talk about the list of free agents for 2021 are huge, because you have Trevor Story, Michael Conforto, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo. They're all free agents after 2021. So you might see teams that are kind of waiting for another year. because you're
So
going to have
basically, it's the 2016 Cubs are the free agent class.
I just read about 4 of them, right? You're right.
Yeah,
Exactly
you did.
right.
So basically, the Yankees are going to get half of them, and then we just need to decide who's going to get the rest, right?
Yeah, our scraps. Yeah. Well, the Mets just got a new owner, so don't be surprised if they start spending money because now they got a guy that says he's going to be spending money. So
Well,
I
they'll
don't know.
probably get at least one of those guys. Cubs could be terrible in a couple of years.
Right.
That's an interesting
Right.
list. Yeah, I'm really curious. I'm just really curious to see because the Mariners are. I feel like they're a year away from being like, okay, we need to start getting some really good players around these young guys to win again. And like Ryan said, it's like, do we bring in a big name guy like a Springer or Lindor now so that when we're good, he's already there? Like the
Right.
Padres did because the Padres, man, they were. I'm surprised they didn't go further. I would have loved to have seen the Padres against
Me
the
too.
Rays in the World Series, not the stinking Dodgers, but whatever. I think it's a really good idea, and it would be nice to see us go that route because we do have the money. Be nice to see us spend it and get some really good talent in and push for some wins. But let's go on to like how our guys did. Lately we've all kind of been going through this ebb and flow of collecting and with our players that are playing right now or not playing, unfortunately. I'm gonna go to you, Ryan. Felix didn't make it into any sets, unfortunately, because he wasn't playing. But did you? Are you still looking forward to like collecting him? And do you feel like he's gonna play next year? First of all, do you feel like Felix is gonna come back and get a spot?
My gut feeling is he's going to try and play. The feeling out of spring training was that he had locked down at least the 5th spot in that Braves rotation before he opted out. I would love to see him come back. I don't know what he's got left in the tank, but I see so many pitchers that have comparable stuff to him. Velocity, similar pitches. And I see them pitching really well. And I feel like there's got to be something in him that can have a similar type of season.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, especially in the National League, if they go back to having pitchers hit, he's got to be there. Like he can easily get through five to 6 innings in the National League, giving up 2 or 3 runs and be an effective quality start type pitcher for the Braves. I think the Braves got a great offense, so that's got to make you feel good, right? He's going to have plenty of run support, which does he even know what that's like? Felix Hernandez run support.
It's going to be weird if he doesn't play again. That means the 3 players I collect, Griffey's sitting at home eating, Jay Buhner is selling trucks. I'm guessing Felix, I don't know, has he learned to crochet maybe? I don't know what he's doing.
But Ken brings up a good point though. It's a whole year, and he's probably been doing a throwing program and strengthening. Hopefully, he's not sitting at home eating too. You don't want to see good old Fifi come back.
That is my hope. Is that this year, like that is my selfish kind of head in the sand type of thought process that this year is going to be a blessing in disguise for Felix. Mm-hmm. That he's just going to get that arm to heal up. We'll see.
How was now that we're on Felix real quick? How was collecting him during the season? Because he wasn't playing, were you able to I know you got some really cool cards, but do you feel like his prices stayed pretty much where they always have been, or do you feel like they took a bit of a dip, or how did this season affect his market?
The last few years he's kind of bottomed out, which is why I got back into collecting him so hard.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, for what I don't know if people with him not pitching, maybe they forgot that he sucked the last year and a half, 2 years. His prices actually kind of have been going up a little bit, which is catching me off guard because I still want to pick him up for a bottom dollar.
Right.
He's not breaking the bank, but they've definitely been increasing, and I've had more competition for his cards of late.
Brent, do you think that's partly because, like, just in the hobby in general, a lot of guys our age, guys, gals, kids even coming into the hobby are like, oh yeah, Felix, he was a guy I liked for many years. Maybe I should go get a couple cards of him. Oh, look how cheap they are. Let me bid. Like, do you think that's has a big part of the prices kind of coming up?
Well, I think it's all the residual, retail or lack of retail thereof, that it forces people to look for individual cards. I think sometimes, it's like if you can't have a kid go to a store and, buy a pack to rip, then they're going to go on and look for the player that they were hoping to get in that pack. which, and then how eBay works is you see the shiny squirrel. Oh, wait, Felix has got this card from 2 years ago that looks really shiny. Oh, and it's only $3. So, I think that's how you can start those things, right? So I think you look for a player, like you mentioned, that you want to collect, and then it opens up a whole new world of, especially if you're new to the hobby, you had no idea how many versions and options and years and brands and styles and parallels there are. Yeah, you can just, and I think, more and more people are looking at it that way. That's going to just slightly affect the upward tick of prices, even for mid-range players like that.
Well, before we get
Mid-range.
Go ahead, Ryan.
What?
Calling Felix mid-range.
Did 2020? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. Yeah, I commend you for defending your player, but I mean, there was a point in his dominant years where he was in a top 5 priced pitcher range.
For sure.
I mean, for sure. Right. But I mean, I think because of that, you're still going to see guys flock to his cards. You're not just going to expect, like, all right, well, nobody cares about Felix anymore. There's still people like Ryan who are like, that was my guy. Like, he was all we had for like 7-8 years, like he was our best player, which, is good and bad at the same time. But I mean, personally, I think it's kind of cool that his prices are still kind of up because he was an incredible pitcher, and it is easy to forget about what have you done for me lately, but he was good. He was fantastic and dominant, and he's our best pitcher as far as long term that I think we've ever had. Randy is probably the most dominant pitcher that ever pitched for the Mariners, but he didn't stay long enough for us to be like he was the best ever for the Mariners. Felix is the best that's ever pitched for us, so. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that in the chat, but it seems pretty easy. But before we get to Kyle Lewis, Brent, because that's going to lead us into a different discussion,
Sure.
you collected Cruz this year, and I mean, how was his market this year? Because Nelson surprised the heck out of me. I don't know about you, Ryan, but he had an MVP-worthy season and hitting from the DH spot at his age. I mean, how was his market overall, Brent?
Well, it's interesting because I can use a lot of parallels with him with Edgar Martinez being a DH. It's not glamorous, right? I mean, so you take away the if you're not playing the field and you're not a superstar pitcher, there's part of that just kind of is kind of blended into the player itself. But to have a 40-year-old, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe he's just he's not as hip as I mean. I get it. If I'm a kid, I'm looking at Tatis. I'm looking at Soto. I'm looking at Acuna. I'm not looking at their dad who's playing for the Twins, right? And I get that. But the flip side of that is I love it. I mean, obviously I connected to Nelson when he played for the Mariners, and that's where it started. And Ken brings up a good point. So in 2019, the Twins brought on the term the Bomba Squad because they've set the single season record for most home runs by a team. Yep. And Nelson led the charge for that. And he was kind of like, get on my 39-year-old back and let's do this thing, right? And I was super happy to see in 2020 he was one of the few. I mean, the Twins overachieved, in my opinion, for 2020 and fizzled out in the playoffs as they have for the past, 18 years. But Cruz is defying age. He's defying the odds. And I followed him in the off season and his rigorous workout session. He is just a student of the game, and to see his routine and how he's kept in shape, I could see him playing at least 2 more years easily. Especially as the DH. And if the National League, he's a free agent. If the National League keeps the universal DH, he has a lot of options. Selfishly, I hope he stays with the Twins or in some miracle comes back to the Mariners, but. I'll support him even if he goes to the Yankees or the Astros. It'll be weird, but it was a good year for him for collecting, though, because he isn't that expensive for a lot of the reasons I just mentioned.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of interesting to follow. Hopefully, you both have a couple of cards from these players to show off here soon. But he. Like looking at the price of that one card you picked up of his, if you know which one I'm kind of hinting at, like the card, I was pretty happy with that, and that kind of set the precedent for where I was at price wise. Because if I'm being honest, our guys are pretty comparable, even if Felix had cards right now in Modern, I bet Felix, Glassnow, and Cruz are kind of all in that same price range. It feels like you know what I mean. Like Cruz may be a little bit higher because he's a hitter, right? So that's going to generate a little more interest. But it was really interesting to see some of the prices that you were getting these cards at, because like the same card of Mike Trout. Oh my gosh! I mean, can you even imagine what some of those? I mean, it's just ridiculous because he's so popular, but. I think for me, I've never collected a pitcher before, and I haven't been into Modern baseball before. So it was really interesting. I mean, I had to rely on you guys to kind of set this value for cards in my head of Glassnow, because he was kind of up and coming and he's got a lot of potential. So there's that aspect to it, right? Like people aren't collecting Felix and Cruz anymore because of their potential. It's just because they like them, right? So I had to kind of factor that in, and it was interesting. There wasn't a lot of interest still, and you would think after last year. I mean, I guess his year ended with his pitch tipping, right, where his glove was, and the Astros just lit him up in the playoffs. But I figured his prices were going to be higher, and they weren't. And it was really fun for me to not rediscover, but discover all these Modern sets for the first time. It was like fresh eyes as compared to Ryan and you, Brent, you guys both have been looking at these Topps variations, 50 variations of the same card for years. Right. And I'm like, what is going on, guys? Like, what do I do here? And I remember asking Ryan, I'm like, Ryan, why isn't there a Topps clear of Glassnow? He's like, oh, it's because he only first 100 players or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay. So there was a lot to learn, but it was certainly a fun journey into Modern and learning about it and chasing down cards and finding value. So it was cool. It was definitely awesome. A fun year, and I look forward to hopefully getting more. Hopefully, all three of our guys are in more sets next year. I know Cruz certainly will be at the beginning, and Felix, as long as he comes back and plays, I'm sure he'll get some love.
He'll be in Topps flagship at least.
I know, right? I mean, hopefully that in Chrome though, he'll be included in Chrome if he's playing. That would be nice, right. But. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's got me thinking though, and I just want a quick hot take from each of you. I'm going to go to you first, Ryan. Ryan, is there too many sets out there?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Yes. Let me rephrase. There are too many sets for them to largely be redundant. Like you look at most of the releases, most of them feel the same to me. Whereas in the past, maybe there would have been nearly as many sets, but they were crazy, and they were all different. They had a huge degree of variance. Right. But I look at maybe it's just because every year it's only Topps, and I mean you got Panini, but as far as licensed product, you have Topps, and they're going to have Allen and Ginter, they're going to have Chrome, they're going to have Museum Collection. So every year it's like, all right, I've seen this, I've seen it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what do you think, Brent? Is there too much product out there?
It's interesting because to piggyback what Ryan said, and then you add for 2020, we got the bin baller set. It's like just when you think you didn't have enough, you add something else to it, right? And the curmudgeon in me is it's like you crazy kids and your 50 parallels, stop it. But I get it, and my buddy JT Triple Crown 24 just did a video on Miguel Cabrera. For the exact same thing. He laid out every 2020 Topps card that he has in Miguel Cabrera. And he asked that question, do you think there's too many parallels? And his answer was no. Right. And I could see his point of view, and it's really subjective and for each individual collector. For me, it just makes my head spin. And I said in that video that I made, a few weeks ago, I yearn for simplicity right now. And that is the antithesis of simplicity for me. So that doesn't mean that they're not cool and I don't like them. And would I like one in my collection? Sure. But it just kind of creates that chase. It continues it on and on and on to where is this going to stop as to what you want to get.
Well, I was looking through, before I get to what Ken said, I was looking through my Glassnow binder and I was just kind of leafing through there, and I noticed, I'm like, holy crap, how many, thank God the picture on the Topps card is good. I'm all paranoid now that the 2021 Topps flagship picture is going to be terrible of him. Some weird face or something, because I'm going to have to look at that picture on 10 different cards, But at the same time, for a guy like me who has a clear glass now who's not in a lot of other products, like he doesn't get into the triple threads, he didn't make it to Allen and Ginter, which is still, in my opinion, the biggest travesty of all the sets this year. So let's not even get into that. But he's not in a lot, so it gives me something to chase. So I enjoy it. But if you're collecting Nelson Cruz, it sucks because there's endless. Like you could never have a completionist mindset. And I think as collectors, and Ryan, I think you'll agree with me collecting Felix, it's nice to have a goal to like, okay, I'm going to chase these parallels this year. Felix is in this, and this. I'm going after it. You know what I mean? Like Allen Ginter, Jay Buhner, I'm going after it. Like you don't even have to think because there's not as many. So for me, it's really easy to go after 6 different tops rainbows as compared to Nelson Cruz, who is in everything, So I don't know.
Well, it's funny you should say that too, because I mean, I look at Nelson Cruz and the breadth of what's available for him, and that pales in comparison to Kyle Lewis. You look at someone like Kyle Lewis, who is like he's the hot rookie, and it's just like it's times 10. So if I compare Nelson Cruz to like a Kyle Lewis, Nelson Cruz seems manageable.
Right.
So it's all about like I mean, can imagine if you collect like a Trout or a Tatis or a Cunha, you want to get all of them. I get it. That's where the money is. And that's where the market is. And they're super popular, and they should be. Yeah. But man, that would just makes my head spin.
That's the thing that's really come to mind. Like Ryan, you know this more than any because you've been collecting these modern sets longer than 2 of us. I think is like there are so many rookies of the same player from every set. I mean, it's crazy, dude. Like with Glass now, he was in everything in 2017 because he was a hot pitching prospect. Like they put him in everything and. I could never chase all that down, but now, looking at how many Kyle Lewis there are, I mean, he is not only is in everything, but he's got all these different subsets and all this stuff. I mean, it's completely overwhelming to me. I can't even imagine going after. I mean, Ryan, I think that goes to your point too. There is too much of the same thing, right? Like even in the 90s they didn't do that.
I think it was I can't remember if it was on your last podcast or the one before where you guys were talking about why the Topps update and the Topps flagship rookies continue to carry a little bit of premium. And I think it's because of that just kind of simplistic approach. We're like, this is his rookie. Yeah. And you got everything else. But I mean, if I go back and I pick up an older card, like maybe I want to pick up Jose Canseco, I'm going to go for the 86 Donruss. Mm-hmm. Or, if it's McGuire, you're going to be like 85 Topps.
Yep.
But if you want to pick up Kyle Lewis, do you go for kind of that line of thinking and you just pick up the flagship, or do you get a refractor? Do you get an autograph? Do you get a game used card? Like what do you get nowadays? And it's confusing to the fans, I think, and I think it muddies the water.
Yeah,
but
it does,
and it gives you options, which is cool. But sometimes it's like if you walk into a record store, sometimes you enjoy thumbing through the records and finding something you've never seen. But sometimes you want to go pick out the record that you went in there for. And if you can't find it, it's frustrating.
Right.
Well, and that goes to that topic, that I've brought up a couple of times about like with hockey, with the Upper Deck product, the Young Guns insert, which is like flagship Topps rookies. That's the one to go get. I want a Sidney Crosby rookie. Okay, you don't go for Flair Ultra. You don't go for Flair Hot Prospects or whatever. You go for the Upper Deck rookie. Just like when a baseball collector comes in, I like Acuna. Which card do you tell the guy to go get first? The Topps rookie.
The Topps, yeah. It's bat up or bat down, right? I mean,
or bat 3/4, bat going, bat being thrown, But that's the thing. I feel like you're absolutely right, Ryan. Like the first rookies I look for. What do you think I did? I went and looked on eBay. I said Tyler Glasnow Topps rookie lot, and I found lots of like 10 of them for like $5. Boom. Here you go. Now I got a bunch of those. So I think you're absolutely right. There, in my opinion, I love modern because I'm into a modern player, but there is too much, and at least from one brand. I would love to see. We talked about this, and it'll be a pipe dream for 4 more years. But I would love to see just one more company have the license, and then really push the envelope to make some more unique cards. So it is what it is, as they say. Before we get on to this topic with Kyle Lewis, Brent, because you and I have talked about where we're going to go, why don't we show off a few cards of our players that we picked up this year?
Sure.
I think people would love to see that. Ryan, do you want to start? Do you have any Fifi cards there that you'd love to show the YouTube world?
I do. I got a couple. So I'm gonna make you wait for the one that you told me I had to show.
I mean, it was a rule, so.
This one is actually going to tie in well to the variation and all the different types of cards.
Yep.
I had looked for this card, as the two of you know, for quite some time.
Oh, yes.
The Topps Chrome variation from 2014. For those who are unaware, that is how they roll out a red carpet coming in from center field for every opening day. And the second I saw that card, I was sold. But that thing's been expensive for a stupid long time. And I finally, after years and years and years, saw one up for dirt cheap, and I pulled the trigger.
Well, do you think, I mean, like I was talking about before, do you think in a way him not playing this year worked out to your advantage in a card like that because the popularity just wasn't there, or what?
It could have been. I mean, there's still a couple that are up for sale. Now, granted, nobody's buying them, but they're listed for, I think, like $50-something. And
really? I mean, is it like a super short print, or is it just a short print? Oh, it's an SSB. Okay.
That one's the SSB.
Okay. Did they ever come out with, I've always wondered this, did they ever come out with print runs on those things?
I don't think so.
Or anything? I'd be curious to know. Brent, do you want to just kind of go around, or do you want to, Ryan, do you want to just show off the plethora that you have?
You tell me what you want me to do.
All right, let's go to Brent then. We'll just kind of go around here and show off.
Right.
Brent, how about a cruise?
So I haven't shown this one to you guys yet. I think I mentioned it to you, Ryan, when we were texting about I got a steal. So this is kind of back to your point originally, Matt, about the price of cruise. He's cheap, and then sometimes he's not. And it really kind of baffles me why some are and some aren't, not just, on rarity or if it's a rookie or not. But this is the prime example of when you can get him for cheap. So this is a 2016 Bowman Chrome and a PSA 10. So this is the gold refractor. I'm trying to see if I can get it with some great light. That's a little better right there. This was 25 shipped.
Wow.
Which is crazy for, numbered out of 25 and a PSA 10 gold refractor. So, and that was a bid. It wasn't a buy it now. And I was like, I'll just put in a bid. That was the minimum bid. I was the only guy that bid on. So that kind of shows you kind of where he's at in the hobby. If I can get this for that cheap, that was a phenomenal buy, and it's a gorgeous card. So that's a good example of kind of where he's at in the hobby. Other times there'll be a card that I don't think is nearly as nice, and it can go for twice as much. Like it's all about maybe luck, but it's also just kind of a microcosm of the ups and downs of Nelson Cruz. So
right,
yeah,
yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, I'd be curious to hear from JT as well, who's collecting a hitter that was a Triple Crown winner and now is just kind of at the tail end of his career. If he's finding cards that cheap too, I'm guessing, Ryan, if Felix had that 2016 gold and a PSA 10, what do you think? $20, $30?
I don't know. I don't really go for graded cards, so I honestly don't know the value on them.
And I would have normally gone for that one, but for that price, I'm like, why not, right?
Well, and Brent, we're going to go into this soon, but you have an affinity for vintage cards, which of course graded is like the way to go for vintage. So I wonder if that kind of plays into you wanting something graded like that just a little bit more, having that graded case.
I wish I had a answer that made a lot of sense, because as you say that, I mean, my affinity for Harmon Killebrew, yes, I'm going to go for graded, right? But recently, a lot of my vintage pickups have just been looking for a really nice centered card, non-graded, because the price is better.
That's true.
So that's kind of been my direction lately. But for certain players and a certain card, if I can get it graded, and if I look at the raw price and it's $5 more, yeah, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
For the most part.
Well, one thing I will say that's kind of been a revelation to me is I've watched boxes of Topps Definitive and Museum and what else is there? Inception, like these kind of expensive products, Flawless, get opened, and seeing these rookie autos and thinking, oh man, those are going to be too expensive. But Glass Now's prices have been pretty fair when it comes to that, and I think it's cool when you can pick up a card for $15 or $20 out of a product that has a $700 box. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's just where it's at. So I mean, the couple that I'll show off is I put these on the group page with these definitive rookie autos. I mean, these things look so cool, and they've got some really cool texture on them as well. Let's see if I can get my camera. There we go. You can see there's like some grooves, looks like almost fingerprints or whatever on there. It's super
looks
cool.
So badass.
Yeah, that is really neat.
So this and this together were $20. So how can you pass that up as a rookie auto out of 25? You know, those are really really fun.
2017, right?
Yep, that's correct. I'll just show these off together because they got a common theme. But then, like, you look at a card like this, I know I'm kind of privy to picking up cards with gold ink on them.
That's so pretty.
That might be my favorite one you have.
Especially with the Pirates colors. Yeah,
love it. The colors are striking.
Well, especially the black and I like when they do stuff like this, when they do the black and white player pictures. And then the last one, I think this came from this 5-Star. That was another expensive product that they used to do for baseball. That right there just looks awesome as well. Like, because this has like almost like a fabric-y look to it, you know.
Right.
But being able to pick up cards like that, I don't know, Ryan, if you're able to get cards similar to with Felix like that. But when they're only like $15 or $20 a piece, how do you pass that kind of stuff up? If I was collecting a big time rookie from 2017, I have no chance at maybe one of those if I'm lucky. So that's why I'm so happy collecting who I do. Is Ryan said it at the very beginning to set my expectations. He's like, pictures are not that expensive, so go for it, you know. So, anyways, how about you, Ryan? Do you have any other Felixes you want to show off?
I got 2 of them.
All right.
So this one's actually in a nice case. This is a
oh my goodness,
the My Oh My patch. After Dave Niehaus passed away, they wore My Oh My, which was his big slogan, patches on their arm, and Topps decided to throw his patch in museum collection. And this one was shown to me in January when I was in the hospital. Seth Sterling in one of the Facebook groups showed this off to brighten my spirits. And I'd been bugging him to sell it to me ever since. And he finally decided he was going to let it go and reached out to me and said if anybody was going to have it, he would like me to have it. And by the way, notice how the sticker looks nice and incorporated into it?
Yes.
Totally. Love it.
But then
that's awesome, dude.
Was it about a month ago when the eBay bucks dropped? This popped up. Let's see if I can get my lighting. It's the top portion of that patch. And again, like for a patch that unique, I think this was about $60.
I like how the top, that patch there, you can see it kind of dips in, right? There's some thickness to that patch. I don't know. I like the other one only because you can see My Oh My, but those are just sick. What are those numbered out of?
50. I think all the patch ones from that year, or the swatches, were out of 50. Yeah.
I was just curious because I wonder how big the My Oh My patch is. Like, is it on every single card that year? Did they use like the My Oh My patch on 25 of them and then a different patch on another set of 25?
That I don't know. I think those might be the only 2 with the swatches or the patches that I've seen
awesome.
At Felix.
As a Mariner fan and a Dave Niehaus fan, I mean,
absolutely.
The sentimental side of things of me loves that card. I don't think it's gonna be hard to ever top the card like that. And also with the sticker auto, Ryan, that is what everybody should like. Topps got it right there. Do that with your sticker autos. Build a frame with like some etching around it to frame the sticker auto. Perfect. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Not just like throwing it right in the middle of the flipping card and it looking just absolutely terrible. Anyways.
Right.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Those cards are incredible. Those are, if you were to do like a display piece like Brent behind you and had some cards on a shelf, I assume those would be front and center, right?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Brent? There's one card in mind I'm hoping that we see. Did you grab that?
I don't know if I did.
It's too bad I can't see the moon right now because that would be really cool.
Oh, you want me to do that one? Okay, all right.
I don't know if we've seen that yet on here. So
I don't know. Grab it. Right, so I'll do
you know which one I'm talking about, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I'll do that one in a second. So the other one I want to show that I just picked up this is his rookie year. So this kind of goes in that whole conversation of what is a true rookie. But this is his 2005 Bowman Heritage. This is the mahogany insert. So I guess I looked it up. I don't know how often they did them. The texture, I mean, you can look at the case is a lot thicker than a normal case. So it has so you can kind of compare the two.
Wow.
It's got a thicker cardboard stock, so it creates a thicker case. Just a deeper, darker kind of looking card. Not very many of these are graded, so I got this for a really good price. Didn't have one to begin with, so that kind of goes against my narrative of getting a graded card just because it's graded, but this one was kind of the exception to the rule, but
Sweet,
happy to get that one. And then the one that you're referring to is the 2020 Select, which is still probably, as we're into November now, probably will be my number one set of the year as far as just aesthetics go. Looking in the 2020 Panini Selects, and this is the Moonshots. This is the 1-of-1 Superfractor.
So
is
gorgeous.
Sick,
I mean, I love this card so much. There's only 3 of them, so that's an easy rainbow, right?
Yeah.
But just the way that it looks, and and the lack of logos is not that apparent in this one as well, which I like it too. I mean, obviously Panini's very particular in what pictures they use. They try to get the the arms across the chest, the head turned to the side, so you don't see the lack of logo. But this is just a great looking card. I mean, you can kind of turn it, and you can see it as you get the glare. There we go, maybe a little more there. Just a great looking card.
So sick, man.
I know. Yeah. So
the reason I wanted you to show that off too is when we were I think it was me, I can't remember, one of us saw it and sent you the link.
I think you did, Matt.
Okay, but then we were talking, the 3 of us, we were kind of like, me and Ryan especially were like, well, maybe this price and this price. We kind of came to this agreement on, I can't remember what it was. I don't know if you're comfortable saying it, but it wasn't a lot, for a one-on-one. And that got me thinking, like, okay, maybe that is where my expectations can be set if Tyler, his 101 comes up, or if Felix 101 comes up. Because, Ryan, I know, how many 101s of Felix do you own? You own a handful of them, right?
I mean, I've got a couple of, like, the sketch cards and the printing plates. I think I only have 2 that are, like, parallels. I got a Superfractor and a gold vinyl from Panini.
Okay.
Or a Donruss Optic.
I think the prices were pretty comparable to Cruise and Glass now, right? We're all kind of in this $80 to $150 range. Like, we really don't go much higher than that.
I think that's about what they were.
Okay, and that really surprises me, because again, when you're going for that Panini, one thing I noticed too is a lot of their pictures are in the alternate uniforms because they're more vibrant, they're more colorful, so you're going to be distracted from the lack of logo in that sense, right?
Good point.
But the designs are really, really unique, and it's like Topps has the logos, but Panini's got more unique designs and parallels. So it's kind of, I mean, you get a little bit of, you get the best of both worlds. But I was really happy that you got that, man, just because of the design of the card was so cool too with the colors that they use. But yeah, is that one of your favorite Cruise cards that you own? I have to imagine.
Yeah,
it's top 10, right?
I have a shelf that has about 6 or 7 cards of his, and that's firmly entrenched on it. So yeah, for sure.
Funny you did a top 10 of his cards, and you didn't have that card before you.
I didn't have it yet. I think I used his. I have the gold. There's a base. There's a gold or the silver prism, whatever you want to call it, and then this one. I think I used the gold.
Right.
So.
Yep. Oh, and
Thanks,
Ken also said this, isn't he right? He's so right. When you hear "My Oh My," you think of Dave saying
that higher octave, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I can get that.
I don't know if I could either.
But he's got a bunch of, like, on the commercials. He had that kind of monotone. My oh
he
my.
Is.
Yeah, put on the games, he'd be like, my oh my.
Commercials, he'd go, my oh my. yeah. But then he would go, my oh my, and then he'd stay in that octave, and then talk afterwards. He'd still say that high, right? So it would like escalate, and then he would plateau, and then he would keep talking in that high octave for a while. Yeah.
What video did I watch recently? So MLB had uploaded Mike Cameron's 4-home run game, and it was called by the Chicago White Sox guy. They had it up for years, and he's of course on the opposite team, and I can't stand him. He's boring as heck. He's he's the he gone guy. He's like, and so Mike Cameron hits his 3rd home run. He's like, well, That's 3 homers for Mike Cameron. But then, of course, Dave is like, freaking out after 3 home runs. And then when he hits his 4th, he screams, my, oh, my. And that was before he started getting a little sick and his voice started dropping off. But it was just like pegged at 10. And it just brings such a big smile to my face every time I hear him make a big call. His voice will forever be entrenched in my mind for sure. So, gosh, I miss that guy a lot. Well, I guess I will end by showing one card. And it was funny because Ken's like, yeah, they should get rid of Inception. And me holding this card, I'm like, no. But I guess you could now. I guess it's not a big deal. But for, you and me, Brent, we like that aesthetic with a lot of vibrant colors in it. And and I don't know how much Inception you have, Ryan, because I don't think we've really talked about it. But I'm not one for picking up jumbo patches most of the time because I'm like, well, this is probably not even game use. He probably wore the jersey and then took it off after a photo shoot. But because I showed you guys this card and you said this is probably I think Ryan said spring training patch, I felt pretty good about it, being a legit card. So this is a 2 of 2 Inception book patch of Glass now. And it is probably the coolest card I've ever owned. That's modern, I got to admit.
That is so badass.
So what really sold me on this, you guys know when there was a superfractor of his Topps Chrome rookie that came up. It was superfractor auto. And I thought, oh my gosh, I got to go after this. This is a superfractor. And you guys said, I don't know, you should probably, that's too much. This came up at the same time, and Ryan goes, hey, that's a spring training jersey. They probably chopped that patch in 2 from a spring training jersey he pitched in. The odds are pretty good. And it's 2 out of 2. And you said, Brent, you're like, it's a rookie card, man. And it's 2 out of 2 with an insane patch. Go after that. And so I forgot to bid because I was doing a podcast. I thought I lost it, and nobody bid. And the guy...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. The guy gave me a $20 discount and got the card about an hour later. So... it's so cool to have a book card. I know Brent's got that cruise book that's filthy. Do you have any books of Felix, Ryan? Have you been able to track any down?
I don't have any Felix books. The only one I have is an Edgar and Jay dual auto.
Oh, that's sick. Well, but that's such a cool idea for like a book, like a card that's an actual book. I'd never thought I would own one ever. And you guys were pretty adamant about me going after that. So I sold a couple things and was able to put it in the collection, and this will be front and center on the Glass Now shelf now.
Well done.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome, man. So thanks for your advice, guys. I appreciate that. It's Modern has allowed me to find cards like that just, the colors are really cool, and it's such a unique card that you can justify the price for it. So.
Yep.
But that makes me want to kind of jump into another topic before we get into our fun topic for just a few minutes here. Brent, you posted a video on your channel in Near Mint Musings about kind of where your heart is at collecting wise, and you touched on what we talked about earlier with there being so many different parallels. What made you come back to vintage, and what originally got you like, holy crap, did you guys hear that? Somebody honked the horn.
That's
okay, gotcha. But like, why did you get out of that? Because when I got into watching your channel, Ryan, you remember when Brent started posting videos, originally it was about Harmon Killebrew and some Edgar Martinez, and then it was all about Kyle Lewis. But now you're back into vintage.
Brent collects Edgar Martinez.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
What can you talk to me about like that whole journey? Because it's kind of interesting. I really want people to hear that. Pretty interesting.
Well, I'll give the quick 3-minute version of it. So I kind of talked about that on the video. I yearned for simplicity, and all of us have a level of reminiscing and of nostalgia when it comes to collecting. Right? We're thinking of back when we were kids, whether it's opening wax in the '80s or if it's opening packs in the '90s, praying for that really cool insert. Or even kids today, that have to pray and hope that there's retail available. I hearken back to that, not as a crutch and not because that's what completely dictates how and what I collect. But you brought it up earlier, Ryan, about looking, if I want a Jose Canseco rookie, I'm going to the 86 Donruss. And for me, I like that. I like that not only because that was the height of my collecting. I started really collecting in '83, but it was nostalgia based, it's simplicity based, and it's not that expensive because a lot of it is junk wax. I get that. But I guess my overarching sentiment in the video was, I got really caught up in the Kyle Lewis hype, and he justified it in spades this year, and for the Mariners to have a rookie of the year, for the first time since 2001, Ichiro. I almost went back to Alvin Davis. Sorry. It wasn't King Griffey Jr. For all of you out there. King Griffey did not win, but Ichiro won in 2001. We haven't really had a guy, right? So, and just he had so many beautiful cards, and I just caught up on it. And I have 75% of that collection still. But I decided, I need to sell some of that off to really look at some vintage, because vintage is where my head and my heart's always been. Mm-hmm. And I just want to have that simplicity of vintage and have what I've been doing. And this really didn't come out in the video per se, was that I'm really hyper focused on Latin American players, specifically Puerto Rico, Panama, because that's where my wife's heritage is from. And just kind of looking at who are the key players that have come out of Puerto Rico. Well, of course, you can't start or stop with Puerto Rico without doing Roberto Clemente. Mm-hmm. So I've really been, looking into him, where if you're going to go that way, he's obviously going to be higher priced because of who he is, rightfully so. But you got guys like, Orlando Cepeda, Minnie Minoso out of Cuba, or you've got some other, Panamanian players like Rod Carew for me is obviously huge. Manny Sanguillen is another player that I really have an affection for. Players like that, where you can pick up a card for $5 or $10, you can get an autograph for $15 with some of these players. And I found a lot of joy, and it means something to me, and also joy in the ingrained simplicity of what card collecting was back in the day. So I also wanted to make sure that that isn't a knock on modern collecting by any stretch of the means. I mean, I've shown some modern cards today. I'm not going to stop. Cruz is going to have cards in 2021. I'm going to get them, right? Yeah. It's just more of a kind of getting back to basics, back to my roots, back to a simpler time for me. And that's kind of what brings the most joy to me.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I mean, Ryan, I want to throw this to you. Like, where is your heart with collecting? Like, because I think what you should collect, if somebody goes, well, what should I collect? Because I've got modern and 90s and vintage and all these different players and sports. Like, where are you when you think of what gets you the most excited about collecting? What is that?
The thing that gets me the most excited are things that I can tie back to my childhood and go into the card store with my dad. I have a 1984 Fleer Wade Boggs is probably my favorite card in my collection. I've since picked up a graded copy, but I still have the original raw. But when I broke my arm, I don't know if you can see that nice, wonderful scar back in '91. And my physical therapy, because my arm was in a cast for so long, essentially the tendons kind of fused there. And my physical therapy was to try and touch my thumb to my shoulder. And my dad told me when I finally could do it, we would go and pick something cool at the card store. I don't know why that Wade Boggs stuck out to me, but it did, and that's what I got. And whether it's players that played for the teams that my dad and I watched, like he was a Giants fan, but he would always take me to Mariner games, and we would always watch Mariners when they were on TV. Things that just kind of take me back to that are what I enjoy. And now things that, like, I still collect Felix because it's the first player my wife got into. It's the first player my daughter likes. Like, everything is kind of, they're things that are important to me on a personal level.
Right.
Amen to that, man.
Oh, Roxette.
Yeah, that's right.
Swedish supergroup. All right.
When you say that, both of you say that, that's why collecting hockey, not just Jocelyn Thibault, but just 90s hockey in general, got me. It brought back those memories of going into the card shop with my dad and opening packs of cards. That's where it all started for me. I did not collect baseball until 1996 after I saw the My Oh My video on VHS. I mean, that right now, honestly, like, I got to shout out Uncle Vinny. He's been on my podcast a few times as just watching. He sent me this incredible care package. I think you saw it, Brent, on Instagram. I mean, all out of the kindness of his heart. And there's just a bunch of random goalies in there that nobody's ever heard of. But for me, I'm like, oh, sweet.
You
know,
love
like,
that. Right.
I did. That's what I did, man. I'd go into the card shop and I'd pick out 50 goalies out of these 10-cent boxes, and because they were goalies, and learn about them and understand their background and how long they played. And so that is like when Ryan says going back to my roots, that's where my roots really are. So I'm trying to balance this out. Like A-Rod, unfortunately, with that collection, unless there's like 4 or 5 cards I don't have that pop up, that collection is kind of put away, and it's where it is, and that's okay. But when it comes to hockey and Tyler Glasnow, that's where I'm at. Always looking for 90s stuff. Like if I just collected goalies, I would have no money because I'd just buy up goalie cards all over the place. But 90s hockey and then collecting a player that plays now is kind of where I'm at. So that's where my focus is, and it's been a lot of fun. But it is you bring up a good point, Brent. You should collect what your heart tells you to collect, not what's cool. Don't go collect Mike Trout because you think you might make a cool investment or something on him, or
right.
That's just my opinion. I think collecting that way is stupid because your heart's not in it. It's just trying to get money,
I think you brought up the point, investment is such a term that is bandied around so often, but I think we need to look at investment in a different way. It's investment in, in your own personal, journey, wherever you've been, what you've come from, whether it's opening packs with your dad, an 84 Boggs. For me, it's a randomly 1986 Fleer Eric Plunk rookie. Oh, and Canseco happened to be on it as well. But I remember sitting in front of a cabinet. I had $5 to spend, and my grandpa waiting for me for a half hour because I couldn't decide if I wanted that or if I wanted something else. And that card immediately brings me back to that moment where that card obviously isn't Canseco's highest, sought after card, but for me, I would take that 86 Fleer dual Eric Plunk rookie card over the 86 Donruss just because of what it means to me.
Right.
That was the one I had in 80. I think I got mine in like 87, 88 out of a pack, and that was like we weren't looking for it. My dad and I used to be set collectors, and the reason I knew about the expensive and hard to find cards was because they were the roadblocks in completing those sets.
Right. Absolutely right.
Nice. No, and I think those are both great points, guys. And so I think I wanted to bring that up just to get people to be, as you can see, there's some conversation in the chat. I think people should not take a look in the mirror, but really think about, because the whole like newness of collectors coming in and everything. I thought that was just a ghost in general. I thought she was like dressed up as a ghost. That would have been funny. But I think, this influx of collectors are starting to, as you guys are seeing, they're starting to back out a little bit. And, we're going to, hold on just a second here. There we go. But, we're starting to see collectors leaving. And so hopefully everybody that's kind of in collecting still is, going to say like, all right, what should I collect for real? Not just, picking up the hottest, newest product. So, anyway, I like the evil laugh, Emma. That's great. So, anyways, wanted to touch on that, but why don't we move on to our last topic, which has nothing to do with baseball? Ha! Bet nobody expected that.
What?
One of my favorite. I know, right? One of my favorite podcasts out there is the JJ Redick podcast. And Brent, you saw that I posted that link, right?
I did, yeah.
And they do this really cool thing at the end of their podcast, which is like a top 5 draft, meaning they're going to pick a top 5 from a random topic, but you cannot pick what anybody else has picked.
I wanted to hear them.
So we thought we would do something similar, especially for Ryan and Brent's love of sitcoms and TV shows and series, that we would do a top 5 draft of our top 5 TV characters we'd like to hang out with for a day. And I know Ryan is super excited about this. He's been thinking hard over the last 24 to 48 hours, probably losing sleep over it. But we thought we'd give you guys something to laugh about. So this is going to be a lot harder for me because I'm going to have to go back to my childhood and bring up some ridiculous choices that nobody's going to think about. But remember, if somebody picks one, you can't pick that same pick. So, Ryan, I really want you to be able to go first here. It's on my heart to let you go first. So you get to. So let's take like 30 seconds to a minute to talk about why we picked what we picked, and then we'll move on.
I had like 19 minutes on each character, but all right, I can try it out.
All right, who's your first pick?
My first pick because I think anybody, if you're going to be friends with somebody, you got to have that nice, loyal friend, the one you can talk to. Oh, my writing is not going to show up.
Oh, you wrote them down?
I did.
Oh,
there we go. Sam Mayday Malone.
Oh, wow.
1, he pitched for the Red Sox, so you get some cool baseball stories.
Right.
2, he runs a bar and apparently doesn't charge his friends. That's kind of awesome. But he's the guy that a lot of the times he was the moral compass on that show. Like, he was the guy that he would have all the witty one-liners, and he would be the kind of almost womanizer half the time, something that wouldn't fly in today's sitcom. But he was the ladies' man, but more often than not, he would also be the guy that had that heart to him.
Right.
I think he would be an awesome guy to hang out with.
I like it. I like all those reasons behind it. So,
Wow.
Who did you say again? Say the name again.
Sam Malone.
Yeah,
Sam Malone.
Okay, Sam Malone. I'm writing these down so I can talk about them at the end. All right, Brent, I'm going to go to you. So we'll do a snake draft. We'll go Ryan, Brent, me twice, back to Brent, Ryan twice. That's going to be the order. So, Brent, who was your first choice?
It's going to seem cliche because it's just kind of, it's the pick du jour. But going back to when the show first started, I've always thought that Jim Halpert would be a guy that I would hang out with regardless of
Dang it.
night or day, whether it's Scranton, PA or wherever. It's funny because you presented this and it's like I wanted to look at, okay, my favorite show of all time is Arrested Development, but I would not pick one person on that show to hang out with because they would drive me in back crap crazy. So there's no way I could pick any of them. So Jim Halpert just seemed to be kind of that guy that doesn't take his job seriously, but he takes it seriously when he needs to. He's a family guy, extremely sarcastic, thinks outside the box, and is all about making his fellow coworker or friend laugh. And I'm all about that, man. All about that. So it sounds like I took one of your guys, so I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, he is. I never really watched The Office for years, and I always came back to clips of Jim pranking Dwight and just some of the facial expressions he made. And yeah, that would have been an easy pick for me. That wasn't my number one pick, but he was definitely one of them. So love it. All right, well, my first pick. I have the next two here. One of them is going to be completely ridiculous and surprising. The first one, I think some of you know it. Have either of you seen the show Justified before? Okay,
Yes.
so my dad was a police officer, so law enforcement is something that I've known about since I was a very young boy. But I would love to hang out with Raylan Givens because he seems like a guy who is always one step ahead. You know what I mean? He's got a little bit of humor. He doesn't really take anybody's crap, but he's really good at his job. And as far as as being a teacher and being a lifelong learner, I would love to ride along with him for a day and just kind of listen to his witty humor, but also see some of the crazy stuff that those people do. That marshals do for a living. That was an easy one for me. Like, it's my favorite show. When that show ended, it ended perfectly, which is not easy to say for any show that you think is your favorite. But also, it was
disagrees.
Yeah, I was gonna say not many shows do, buddy.
Yeah, hold my goblet.
Yeah. So that was my first choice for sure, Raylan Givens, and I think Tim Oliphant. Tim Oliphant as the person would be fun to hang out with because anytime he's on Conan, he's hilarious. But my second character, if it was real, that's right, I'm going into the animated world, you guys. I have to. My heart loved Optimus Prime since I was like 3 years old, man. Like
Nice.
he was like this character you just think about it. Think about it. Like he was just like this godly figure in a way. Like, I'm not saying that in like a worshiping type, but he was just like this fatherly type figure that you looked up to if he was real and could never be hurt or killed and was just like a fearless, perfect leader. He always said the right thing. Imagine spending a day just around him. You know what I mean? That would be amazing.
Right.
Think about
Clearly, we need to rewatch the movie, though. If we don't think he can be killed.
Oh, I am well aware of that. That devastated me as a child, but we're not going to speak about that because we're going to talk about the TV series and not the movie, Ryan.
All right.
The idea of him being killed, I still can't even believe they went with it. But those are my first two picks. I mean, especially because you get to ride around in a giant semi truck, and all of a sudden he's going to transform and he can carry you around in his hand. So, come on, that would be fun. So those are my two picks to start. What about you, Brent?
So I'm going to go a little off the radar. I'm going to go across the pond to Britain. I'm a very big fan of British humor, British comedy, British sitcoms. And I don't know if you've heard of a show called The IT Crowd or The It Crowd. And I'm going to show you a picture of this guy. Maybe you've seen this guy. I don't know. Let's see if I can hold it up. Okay. That's got terrible glare on it.
There we
Can you
go.
see him right there?
Yep.
Richard Ayoade is his name, and he plays a character named Moz. And basically, the synopsis of the show is you have this huge British company, and they have the basement. They have these two pop culture geek misfits that are the IT department, and the shenanigans that ensue between him and his coworker are you probably if you punch up the GIF for popcorn, you're usually going to see the normal ones, but you're also going to see him like. You'll see him. So maybe that's where people have seen him. Anyways, I completely love British humor, and the fact that they bring pop culture and British humor, and it's a perfect amalgam of both of them. It only ran for 3 seasons, but my wife and I absolutely adore that show. And he is a super cerebral yet very down to earth, funny guy, both as a character and as a person. And I just love the guy. So I would love to hang out with that guy because he would keep me grounded.
What is the name again? Well, I can write it down.
The IT Crowd.
Okay. And the character's name is
Moz. Moss is his last name. They just call him Moss.
Okay. Got it. Okay, Ryan, you got the next 2. Where are you going with this?
I'm going with one that I worry was going to be first picked. But
I think I know where this is going, right? This has to be. Yes, of course.
Yep.
Of course.
I left that for you.
All right, let's hear why. I mean, there's so many reasons we can all come up with, but what did you come up with?
Well, one, it's my favorite TV show in the history of television. It's the greatest sitcom ever written. My wife hates it, but she will still occasionally watch it with me. It's not her kind of humor. But Cosmo Kramer is down for anything. He's wild, he's kooky, he's crazy, whether you want to throw a giant balloon full of oil out a window or whether you're
dump
going
some cement into a washer.
Yeah. Maybe you want to adopt a highway and turn it into a 2-lane pleasure cruise. Whatever it is, Cosmo Kramer is your guy, and we all need a friend like that.
We do.
And we also need a friend that's going to make you push the limits of your car to see how far past the E you can really go, right? Oh my gosh, love it. All right, next pick, Ryan, is yours.
All right. Because I think I can come back to these 2. Tyrion Lannister.
Good.
Nice.
Good call.
I thought about a lot of characters on that show. I don't want to be near somebody that has a propensity for being in life-threatening situations. Mm-hmm. And I know Tyrion Lannister had a couple moments, but by and large, they were of no fault of his own.
Yeah, he usually avoids them. Right.
Yeah. So he's one of the few characters that's not actively looking to engage in violent acts in that show. So my safety is going to be taken care of. He loves to drink. He loves ladies. And he gets to hang out with Sir Bronn of the Blackwater. So my life would be very entertaining. Plus, he's got enough gold that everything is taken care of. Like, he clearly has shown that he's the guy that's going to pick up the tab if you go out to eat.
That's true. Love it. Love all the reasonings behind that. All right, I'm just kind of writing these down. Brent, you were up next. Who's your 3rd pick?
So back in the early to mid 80s, there was one person that guys wanted to be and girls wanted to be with, and that was Alex P. Keaton from Family Ties. So Michael J. Fox was, he was legendary in the 80s, if not just for Family Ties and obviously for Back to the Future. But the character that he played on Family Ties, even at the age of, what was I, 13, I wanted to be him. I didn't have a picture of Ronald Reagan on my wall. I didn't go that far, but just his snark. And I think if I think back to the genesis of my formative years, I think my snarkiness was due to him and this character, which is, for some a blessing, but for most a curse. If they hang around me, I think that just having someone and as a friend that would again keep me grounded, but would also just have the ability to just have that immediate retort, that one-liner that's like, that is brilliant. That would take me all day to come up with, and then I immediately would forget it. it was like an encyclopedia of one-liners that would just, cut you to the quick, right? It was like, man, that's good. He wasn't a jerk about it, but it was poignant in his reception, right? So I think that he was a great guy to emulate, but also a funny dude. And plus, he dressed really cool, and he wore a tie like 7 days a week. And I had to when I was in private school, so I thought that was kind of cool as well. So yeah, Alex P. Keaton. That's my third pick.
All right, I got it. And I just want to mention to everybody that's watching, if you're talking about Brent in a dictionary, Brent has the word choice rating of 10 out of 10 for sure. Brent can, how did I phrase it? He can encyclopedia or not encyclopedia, but dictionary the heck out of you if he really needs to. So I appreciate that, man. I like when you're using different words that none of us would use in the same situation. So keep that up, man. How did you say your wife enjoys when you do that? She likes it, right?
No. She goes, what does that mean? And I'll tell her, well, why didn't you just say that?
Yeah, right.
Right.
I know, that's good. That's a good connection to that character. It's good. All right, well, my next choice, I mean, this is kind of a funny one because when I love this show to death, but I think we all need a friend that takes you outside of your comfort zone, right? Gets you to go do things that you would never do, and it takes you places, helps you discover something you never thought you would enjoy. And I'm keeping this appropriate, obviously, but I feel like Barney from How I Met Your Mother would be perfect for me because, yeah, that's right. That's right. I had to get you on one.
Barney Stinson.
I mean, come on now. That guy, Ted is a guy I can relate to a lot, right? Like in that show in a lot of ways. So Barney is always getting Ted to go do things he wouldn't normally do, right? And honestly, I thought that was a great choice for me because Barney would be like, come on, Matt, let's go. No, you're going to get out of bed. You're not going to be sitting at home. We're going to do this. Like, let's go. And I feel like he would be the perfect choice for me. So that is my third choice. And
but
I'm
also,
going to
think back to so many of the moments in that show. Like, again, he was so often the heart of that show, and he was the character that you wouldn't expect it from.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's not talk about the way that show ended because I've never been more upset because I wasn't a Game of Thrones like junkie. I wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next episode. But that show, I started watching it years ago after it already ended, and I didn't know how it ended. I never looked it up. I was so upset, like I literally was wouldn't talk for like 15-20 minutes. I was so pissed off at the end, and then they put out the collector's edition and put what the ending should have been based upon what fans thought. And I'm like, okay, that's how they should have ended it, idiots.
Right.
But I got to stick with that show because I think you also need a friend who, no matter how you're feeling, down, way up, anywhere in between, is always going to make you laugh because they're so ridiculous. And that has to be Marshall from that show, right? Like, he like his sense of humor is so out there, and just the way that he talks, the dumb things he does without even thinking, he would be that friend that would always bring your spirits up. You know what I mean? I feel like
that's a good call.
I feel like it's like, but what about the pineapple? Like he asks the important questions that'll always get you to laugh. But I just loved Marshall from that show because he whether he was doing it on purpose or not, he was always making himself look like a fool, making you laugh, or like, what about the Gouda? Like he kept like just stupid things like that. So that is my fourth choice. I'm glad Ryan didn't rip up another card. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Brent, what is your fourth choice on this draft?
All right, I won't take too long on this one. My fourth choice is from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Jake Peralta.
Nice.
What I love about him is I can just look at him and he makes me laugh because he's the epitome of like the kind of face, that would go with something. And he's a cop, so obviously he takes his job seriously, but at the same time he doesn't. So, surround yourself with people that put up with you, but at the same time appreciate you. And kind of the ongoing narrative for me and my choices is that pick somebody that's funny, that makes you laugh, but it's going to have your back when push comes to shove.
Right.
That, might be immature, and you can get your kicks out of them, but at the same time, they're going to be there when you need them. But he's just off the wall. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the clip of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where he has the guys that are lining up for the mug shots and they makes him sing Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, oh yeah, yep.
That is like one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen, and how he just gets into it and starts singing, gets back to his Lonely Island night, SNL days. But it's comic gold for me. So yeah, definitely Jake Peralta. Let's go.
Good choice. Love it. All right, Ryan, you get 2 in a row here.
Sweet. So this one I decided not to go for something that's really going to amuse me.
All right, hold on. Let's see.
Angus MacGyver from MacGyver. I want to be able to have all the random tchotchkes in my junk drawer put to good use. I want him to be able to construct weaponry or new electronics. Like maybe he can repair my old Laserdisc player. Like whatever it is, MacGyver's going to be my guy. He can rig some explosives or whatever.
Yeah, because when you might need explosives some random time, right? That's awesome.
That's funny.
That is awesome.
Good pick.
That's my favorite one that you've made so far. Your reasoning, of course. All right, so what are you finishing it off with? What's your last one?
Oh, man, I don't know. I got so many that I want to do. But I'm going to go for I want to hang out with Chloe Sullivan from Smallville.
Okay, can you give me some background on why that is?
Yes, I can.
All right.
One, she has that kind of nerdy hot girl next door look, which is kind of cool. She did it more for me than Lana did. Kristen Kruk, I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Okay.
But two, she was pals with Superman, which has got to have some cool benefits, which means by proximity, I get to tool around with Superman, get to kind of be friends with Lex Luthor. In that show, she became the Oracle, so she had some kick-ass responsibilities. And two, lastly, I suppose, if you're familiar with her legal troubles, seems like she would be fun to be around. I won't get into that on your show, but it seems like I would be the Man of Steel.
Jeez. That's awesome.
Okay. All right. Very nice. That's a pretty good list. All right. I'm going to, after we're done, we'll go back and I'll recap that.
All right.
Brent, let's hear your final pick. Don't you dare take the one I have on my list here, man.
I can almost 99.9% guarantee I'm not.
Okay.
So, because I'm hearkening back to the 1983. And, once you were done with Must See TV and Family Ties, then you would have to switch on to the ragtag team that were Vietnam heroes that were saving LA from drug lords. That would be the A team.
This plan is coming together.
And it would have to pick Templeton Peck, aka Face Man, aka Face. He lived the perfect life. He would roll up in his brand new convertible Corvette with the bombshell next to him, and kiss her goodbye and thank her for a wonderful evening, and then hop into a chopper and then go off to fight whoever they're fighting that day, who's building a tank in a barn, and wait for BA to show up because he doesn't fly, or you're the guy that has to knock him out. Then you let Hannibal deal with all that mess while you're just kind of looking suave and debonair, but at the same time kicking butt and taking names and saving the city from drug lords and malfeasance. So Templeton Peck was my hero, and I would love to live, by proxy, if nothing else, just hanging out next to him, let alone be him, just be next to him, and I'm sure I'd be better for it. So there you go.
Right.
Face
nice.
Man.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have to admit that I'm torn based upon Ryan's last choice, because I know who I'd want to say just so I could be around this person for obvious reasons that my 13-year-old self thought. But I got to go with my original choice. So my maybe pick was 7 of 9, but I won't even go into detail of why that is. I think all three of us can agree that we know why. Yeah. Do you know who that is, Ryan?
Jerry Ryan, right?
Jerry Ryan and Star Trek Voyager. She's wearing like a skin-tight suit. And anyway, okay, so
I know her from Boston Public.
Just look up 7 of 9. Look up 7 of 9 on your phone real quick right now, and I think you'll pretty much know as a 13-year-old why that was my
Now that you say Jerry Ryan, I know who it is.
Okay, so I have to go with my original choice, and that is, for me, and I know Ryan is in this boat. I think Brent is kind of there, but I have an inner nerd. I don't really let it show too much. Like, I have my Destiny stuff around and whatnot, but I don't really talk about my love for nerdiness. You guys know where I'm going with this pick? I think this is, I mean, if I was going to spend a day around a nerdy guy who just doesn't even care and lets it all fly out, but actually learn something because he's super smart, would be Sheldon. I mean, how can you not pick Sheldon, right? So, anyways, I think he would be a really interesting person just to be around for a day, because he doesn't care about what anybody thinks about him. He just acts the way that he acts, and he's a very intelligent person. He's also a mega nerd, and so you'd have a lot of fun spending time around a person like that. So Sheldon is my 5th pick.
Love it. Well done.
Wow. All right, so let's go to Ryan's list first. So Ryan, in our draft, Ryan's first, second, and third, fourth, and fifth pick. Ryan's first pick was Sam Malone. Very nice. Second pick was Cosmo Kramer, which I know one of us would have. Yeah, giddy up.
Yeah,
that's right. Number 3 is Tyrion Lannister. Number 4 is Angus MacGyver. That's my favorite pick of Ryan's because of his reasoning why. Like, I just imagine Ryan doing all sorts of mischievous things with him as his friend for a day. And then,
the hair.
Yeah, of course. Of course. The group chat would be fun that day that Angus was hanging out with Ryan. And then Chloe Sullivan is his final pick. Great, well-rounded list there. I like it. I mean, we've got some classics. We've got some... there was one that I didn't expect. I didn't even think about MacGyver for some reason, although I remember that. And then Chloe Sullivan, that one was... I had no idea you would go there. Brent, we've got Jim Halpert. Thanks for stealing that one. I remember seeing that show for the first time. Didn't really know about it and saw it after it come out. And that character is... and I love the chief in that show, too. The
Yes.
Is he the chief? Is that his role?
Yeah.
He was on was it Homicide, or he was on a 90s detective show?
Very serious, right? Exactly. Yeah. And he has that deep voice that he does commercials on too, and yeah.
But when Jake Peralta is trying to mess with him, and his face is just like, I do find that funny. It's quite funny, like the straight face.
I am smiling. Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. I am smiling. So yeah, great list overall for sure. And then for me, I had Raylan Givens, Optimus Prime. That's right, I went there. I went with Barney after that, and then I went with Marshall and then Sheldon. So nice. I feel like we would all have a blast hanging out with these 5 people each. But I thought this was a fun idea, ridiculous idea. Has nothing to do with podcasting, but I feel like we all got to, people got to learn a little bit about us beyond collecting, and that's why I wanted to do it. So you're welcome for not going to the produce aisle or frozen aisle, Brian, which they did on the JJ Redick podcast. But yeah, I thought that would be a fun thing to do with you two guys for sure. Well, now that we're going into the off season, I'm gonna go to you first, Ryan, to wrap up the show. Where are you thinking collecting wise for the off season? You kind of stick with your guys and see what comes up, or what?
Well, Jay Buhner is I assume sorry I assume Allen and Ginter Chrome has the same checklist.
So I hope not. Sorry, I had to be selfish there.
Assuming it is, that means for the first time I will be able to get an Allen and Ginter refractor, and even though it won't be Felix, cool. I will get to have some cool J. Other than that, I've kind of been going back and looking at sets that I've always wanted to build.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, what? Give us a couple set. Like, for instance, I know you want to show them off because they're so incredibly rare and amazing. But what set are you currently working on right now, which is pretty cool, to be honest?
I'm doing the 07 Turkey Red Chrome refractors.
Okay.
I'm debating whether or not I do the full master set and go for the black refractors and the chrome. Mm-hmm. I probably just stick with the just the refractors.
Right.
But I don't know.
How is your progress going on that?
I'm just about done actually. When I ever decide to do my COMC order.
Okay, gotcha.
So when it gets here in May of 2022, I'll be good.
Right.
That's funny. What about you, Brent? Where are you? Where are your collecting goals at right now during the off season?
Just kind of you naturally kind of pump the brakes a bit, right? But I'm just really going to look at some vintage, kind of some obscure, cheap, Latin American players, maybe some on-card autos that I can get some rookie cards that are going to, be pretty cheap, and it's going to build up that PC collection. It's been a lot of fun doing that. So not a whole lot of modern. I mean, with new stuff that comes out, with Allen and Ginter Chrome, I'll probably look at, Cruise for that. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple of products that are still to come out, like Topps Chrome Black or something like that for the first time. I don't know what to think about that. It looks really cool. So we'll see, how rare and how hard that is to get and who's on the checklist. But
right, crossing my fingers right now.
Right, something tells me nobody I collect is in that. Well, maybe Griffey. Griffey probably.
Yeah. And then also don't forget Stadium Club Chrome. The picture of Griffey, first of all, looks
amazing.
amazing.
Yes.
And they've never done Chrome, and the checklist is kind of big. I think it's 300 cards, so we know that we know for sure that Griffey's in there. We know for sure Cruz, Glasnow will definitely. I mean, if he doesn't get into that, I will literally quit collecting him. That's how sure I am. He makes it into that. But I'm curious. The picture of the Griffey is different on there than the one in Stadium Club where he's robbing the home run from Luis Gonzalez.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it is. It's him like in the stance from the side. So it's like a perfect shot of his stance. So that's got me excited because again, Topps doesn't typically change the photos, but for Topps Chrome Black and for Stadium Club Chrome and maybe Allen and Ginter Chrome, I think we're looking at different pictures of the players. So that is something to get a little excited about, at least from my perspective, and hopefully Ryan too with the Griffey, but. And then Cruz, who knows what picture they'll use. So we've got those three to look forward to. I definitely am stoked about that. Contenders just came out, and Glasnow did make it into the base set, so I know there's a couple really sweet-looking parallels to look after. But the thing is, as far as photos, they've used the same picture of Tyler on all their cards. Every Panini product, he's in the same mid-delivery with the teal jersey, and I'm so excited for them to move on and start using different pictures, man. It's killing me. But another thing that nobody in here cares about is this sport has a couple releases coming out. One in December. Topps Dynasty Baseball is really popular, but Formula One is doing their first ever release from Topps, and it's that. So I'm really, really excited to see what those look like. And then they're doing a Topps Chrome in January of Formula One. So that's going to be really fun to see what rate. I mean, because in my opinion, the helmets and the cars themselves are pieces of art, so I really hope that they can incorporate that into cards, and we'll just have to see. Because nobody wants to see a bunch of pictures of racers with their helmets off. That's kind of like, okay, that's fun, but the art side of me hopes that the cards turn out really cool. So I think for the next couple of months, there's some really fun products to look forward to, especially baseball. I was going to ask you guys, Topps Update is something I've never really looked forward to coming out, and that is coming out here at the end of next week. Where do they go with a lot of their, because I know they do the rookie cards of their first appearance of the year, right? They do those. What else could we look forward to our guys getting into that set at all?
Normally they focus heavily on the All-Star game. Okay. But obviously this year they didn't have an All-Star game. And you get a lot of the guys that get brought up later in the year, the trades. It's one of the
rookie debuts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a set that helps me fill out my Mariner Master set because a lot of random middle relievers pop up in there, or just bench players. Okay,
so is there a chance Cruz and Glasnow, and then a couple Mariners that wouldn't be? Do we have a chance for all those guys to get in there? Or do you think it's not really?
This is such an anomalous year. So I mean, it's there's been rumors that they were talking about maybe putting in a prospect group into this just to kind of give it the amount of cards that they normally would have, because there's so many cards they won't be able to have in this update. All-Star game and firsts and all these things that normally they would have. So I don't really know. This update's going to be really weird as far as what they decide to put into it. I don't even know how big the checklist is.
I think it's 300
but it's usually 1, 2, and then update are all 300, right? They're all about the same size. So it's series 3. But I don't know how they can put in a bunch of cards without having a lot of things that didn't happen this year.
I'm thinking league leaders has got to be an easy way to go through. You cross off, you check off all the league leaders in both leagues, pitchers and hitters. So you get that out of there. That's 50 or so, depending on how deep you want to go. I hope they do K per 9 innings because my guy gets that one. Woohoo! But
were they able to make them that quick? Because the set comes out in a week, I think.
Well, I mean,
so I don't know.
The regular season ended a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
That's true. Yeah.
So
you don't think of playoffs.
Topps now gets their cards out in 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm assuming that they were able to do that. I'm thinking league leaders is definitely in there, and then they maybe go to some past All-Star games and stuff like that.
And they might. Yeah.
That'd be an interesting way to go.
It could be fun.
All-Star moments. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get Griffey hitting the ball off of the warehouse out there. You got Josh Hamilton's ridiculous home run derby. You got Bryce Harper chucking the bat after like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some really cool all-star. A-Rod might get one. He hit a home run in Coors Field. Most likely not. But it'd be nice to see if they do go that route. But yeah, I think there's a lot of mystery in the air with that set. Typically, it's pretty clear what you're going to get. But I don't know if they'd put any playoff stuff in there. Probably not. But it'd be really cool if they put in some cool playoff.
They should have like a mask series, like a players wearing masks and stuff, because I'm kind of, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it's like, when are you ever going to have this?
Well,
so take advantage of such a weird season, or maybe have a cardboard cutout, like, something. Something different that is only going to happen this year. Hopefully, only happen this year.
Well, that could be their
mask cards.
Yeah, mask cards.
That's weird.
Perfectly sanitized.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. Game worn mask card. Oh, dude.
Well, I bet you you know what though? You bring up a good point, Brent. I bet the super short print could be a version of them standing on the bench with their mask on or something like that. Like, I could see them doing that, just to commemorate or remember this year that we've had in baseball. Right. But yeah, I'm really curious to see where they go. Definitely some sets to look forward to, and I do hope that we're able to cross off some cards that we can all chase for each of our players, because Fifi's not in any sets this year, but Jay Buhner has made his way into a couple. So and then of course you're going to have Griffey, but then Cruz and Kyle Lewis will be in everything, and then Tyler might sneak into, I bet he gets into at least one of those sets we talk about. Chrome for sure he'll get into, but I'm hoping for Topps Chrome Black. We'll see. It'd be really interesting to see where things go, and he better be in Topps Fire next year. That set is so cool, and I am so disappointed that Tyler's not in that, because the art side of me really likes that set. But yeah, it should be fun.
If they were to do mask cards, they could have replica masks, and they could have them blinged out. Ben Baller did the mask.
Oh man, I can't even get into that set. I feel like they could have done so many cool things with that set. I have most of the rainbow except the super, but the refractors don't shine. Like, it would have been really cool if they were textured, like where the necklace part is, the chain would have had some texture on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like that product was rushed, and whatever. It's not super important in my collection, but it's neat that they, I guess, did something to commemorate how popular his project cards were.
Yeah.
But they need Matt Taylor to do a set. I'll tell you, that would look awesome right now, Brent.
Amen.
Holy smokes, that would look amazing. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. I really enjoyed the conversation we had going on in chat. Definitely got to give Ken's Cardboard, Amish Dave Archer, 4 Leafs, Significant Inserts. They were all in the chat, going back and forth, so that was a lot of fun. Schmidt Collector was in here as well. It was nice to see that, and thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Brent, for taking the time to do this today and
right on.
Thank you.
Wrapping up the season.
All
right, have a great Sunday, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Right on.